Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. I enjoy how easy the meals are to make and the variety to choose from, and of course, how amazing the meals taste. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. You can choose from a variety of new recipes each week, like meatball pizza with fresh mozzarella cheese and charmed tomatoes, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs, and there's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe and pre-portioned ingredients and can be prepared in about 40 minutes or less. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook.
Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. We got some LeVar Ball coming for you. I'm not sure if that's a promise or a warning.
Yeah, it's a warning.
Depending on how you take it. But we got that coming up. We got Booger McFarland here. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line tomorrow in this hour. Don't forget, back-to-back, John Gruden and Kirk Herbstreit. Every Wednesday, Gruden and Herbie in this hour, the 7 o'clock hour Eastern time, hour number 2 for us. So always enjoyable. My buddy Mitch Truitt is listening, and he sent me a note. Said, you are for sure the only morning show host in the world and perhaps ever who could invoke Zero Mostel and a Jets analogy. Be careful going to the cafeteria after the show. There is a 50% chance someone is going to take your lunch money. And he's right, and you were right as well. That was poorly handled by me. I should have come up with practically any other analogy besides the producers.
Yeah, well, listen, first of all, 99% of the people listening have no idea who the producers or what the producers are. I didn't.
That's an exaggeration.
Well,
I believe more than 1% of the people have heard of the movie The Producers.
First of all, I didn't know it was a movie. I thought it was a play.
It started out as a movie. It was a classic Mel Brooks movie.
Classic may be a stretch.
It was a classic.
Okay. It was
I don't know how. If there's an official definition of classic, I believe that it is one. But go ahead.
Well, you could have made the analogy so much more simple.
You're correct.
By just saying, hey, you know what? They're trying to be bad. They're actually good. Maybe they're not good at being bad at all, and just left it at that.
Right. They're very bad at being bad. They were bad. Here's the problem with my life with the Jets. They were bad at being good, and now they're bad at being bad.
Exactly.
If we can figure out something they're good at, then I'll probably be in a much better mood, all things considered. Let's finish up the conversation we were having before the end of the previous hour. We'll get Timmy Kurkjian in coming up in about a half hour here, looking ahead to the Yankees and Twins tonight, which, again, you'll see on ESPN, and you'll hear it right here on ESPN Radio. And I have a love-hate relationship with the one-game second wild card. First and foremost, I love what it has done for the regular season. Adding the second wild card, I think, was absolutely brilliant for the regular season. It has created a significance to winning the division.
Correct.
There was a time when the difference between the Red Sox and the Yankees, for example, going into this postseason would have been basically nothing. Right. The difference between winning the division and being the wild card was practically nothing, and I didn't like that. Mm-hmm. So I love the idea that it has put a premium on winning the division. There is a distinct disadvantage for both the Yankees and Twins going into these playoffs versus the rest of the teams in the American League, and the same, of course, in the NL as well. So I love that. And of course, look, for TV's sake, I mean, we've got it on ESPN tonight, and tomorrow is Turner, right? Has the National League game, or Fox? Is it Turner or Fox? Turner has it. Whoever has it. Doesn't make any this has nothing to do with the fact that we have the game tonight. But obviously, there's something incredibly exciting about a one-game winner-take-all scenario. That speaks for itself. That said, the notion of settling something this significant in one game doesn't sit well. Exactly. It just doesn't feel right. So what I would do, if you made me the king of the world or the commissioner of baseball, is I would make it a best of 3. And if you wanted to satisfy your idea of giving home field bigger advantage, just play them all in the park of the team with the better record. So you don't have travel in there, so you can get through it relatively quickly. Make it a quick best of 3 and give home field advantage to the team with the better record. Now, that would serve a lot of it would create a lot of unnecessary or unforeseen negative consequences.
Yes.
The teams that are sitting and waiting don't want to sit and wait that long. They get out of their rhythm, they get out of their routine. They don't want that. It actually would in some ways wind up not serving the purpose that we want it to serve.
Yeah, I think 3 games would be too many. That's the reason I say keep it at 2, because 3 games, let's say it goes 3 games. So now the team that wins that 3-game series, if it has to go 3, now your pitching rotation is all out of whack.
Now, which it is a little bit already, but you're right. It would take it even further. So, again, to be clear, you're saying make the team with the lesser record have to win twice.
Twice. And the team that has the best record, if you win 1 game, it's done, over with, move on. If you're the team in the wild card with the lesser record, you have to win 2 games. Give the team that had the better regular season. Because here's the thing about it. What do we always say about baseball? It's game 57 of 162. Well, make the 162 mean just a little bit more. And this is another way you can make the games mean a little bit more in this situation. So I like this idea. I stole it. I'm going to be clearly honest about that, but it's mine now, and so I think we should go with it. Right. Mine is better than yours.
It's growing on me. The more I'm listening to you, the more it's growing on me. In spite of myself, I'm actually kind of starting to like it a little bit. We'll continue thinking it over as we bring our buddy Tom Waddle into the conversation here. Tommy, you hear him every afternoon in Chicago on ESPN 1000, Waddle and Sylvie, and of course you've heard him for years on our show and all the other shows here on ESPN. Good morning, Tom Waddle.
Good morning, guys. I'm getting some good information as well. We have the baseball commissioner, Rob Manfred, on our show this afternoon. Now I'm going to have some material for him. Thank you.
I like that. And, the Cubs were in this game 2 years ago, obviously, so you guys went through this, and your partner there, Sylvie, is the crazy Cub fan, as so many people in Chicago are. Obviously, we want to talk to you about Mitch Trubisky, but just quickly, what do you think of that? The one-game play-in scenario, Booger is saying, and you got it from Rossi, right?
Yeah,
he took it from your guy, Rossi, that if you want to make it a little better for the team with the better record, then make the road team or the lesser record team have to win twice in this round. What do you think of it?
I'd never heard it, so I'm going to have to sleep on it, but I kind of like it. I've always thought baseball was a game of series, so playing just one game to advance after 162 regular season games always seemed a little odd to me, but I do understand the scheduling conflict that it would cause to make the wild card a 3-game series. So Booger's got a very good idea, stolen idea, but a good idea that I think I'm going to have to sleep on a touch.
Nobody steals an idea like Booger McFarland. You can trademark that. Timmy Kurkjian, will bounce it off him in about 25 minutes, and we'll get his reaction. Meanwhile, Tommy Waddle, we wanted to talk to you about the quarterback change. So first, let's get 2 separate takes from you. The first is let's hear the reaction. I was on your show a couple of weeks ago. You weren't there that day, but I was on with the guys, and I know that everyone has been screaming and yelling in Chicago for this because the Bears have looked basically terrible, and Glennon has looked no better than anyone was hoping, and maybe even worse. So what were you hearing in phone calls yesterday on your show from Bears fans?
Well, I think it gives people some hope. Look, I would caution people starting a rookie quarterback, despite what you've seen from Deshaun Watson, who's got a better cast around him than Mitchell Trubisky will have around him in Chicago. There will be bumps. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. But with that said, I think it's giving people hope, and they're getting a glimpse of the future. And I think people realize all along this isn't a playoff caliber team, but it's a team that's been desperately in search of a quarterback answer for an extended period of time. So I think what everyone is looking forward to starting next Monday night is an opportunity to look at the future of this franchise. So there is some excitement. I do believe he will raise the level of play of several of the guys around him. I do believe there will be some mistakes, but we feel like we have some hope here in Chicago now, guys.
Tom, why not make this move at the beginning of the season and just go with it? I know people in Houston are saying Deshaun Watson should have started week 1, and I think Greeny and I both agree with that. If you're a Chicago Bear fan, why not do this at the beginning of the year, since this is a season, by and large, there was really no chance for the Bears to be a playoff team anyway?
I think it's a good question. I think the answer that you would get from the Bears front office and from the coaching staff is if you look at the two quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, as you know, Booger, better than anybody, was a 3-year starter at Clemson and played on the biggest stage and under the brightest lights and excelled and maybe was more ready to play sooner than Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell had one season at North Carolina, and I think the plan all along was to be very patient with him, bring in Mike Glennon, allow him to kind of hold the seat of Mitch Trubisky for a while and let Mitchell sit back and watch and learn and then ultimately take over. But the fact that Mike Glennon wasn't able to manage games, which is what he was brought here to do, and it was actually the reason why they were losing games, I think it speeds up the plan for sure.
Was he? I mean, so you watch every snap of every game closely. How would you evaluate what you saw from Mike Glennon, who was probably now taken, I would assume, if Trubisky stays healthy? Glennon has taken his last snap as a Chicago Bear, so his future becomes, I guess, interesting, certainly to him and maybe to some other teams. How would you evaluate what we saw from Glennon in 4 games?
I would say that the word that comes to mind, Greening, is unacceptable. Look, I know the team liked Mike Glennon. They voted him a captain. I think that everyone felt he was a good leader. But at the end of the day, you're playing the most important and most difficult position in all of professional sports, and you've been brought here to take care of the football. He turned it over 8 times, 7 times in the 2 games where they never really competed against the Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you just can't live with a game manager who's not managing the game. And it wasn't all Mike Glennon's fault. He doesn't have a ton of talent around him inside that offensive huddle, but he did have his hand in a lot of the big mistakes that occurred and really took them out of games. So, look, I thought I didn't evaluate him correctly because I didn't think Mike Glennon's ceiling was enormously high, but I didn't expect the floor to be this low. I thought he would be significantly better than he's been in a short period of time here.
Tom, how does this affect John Fox? Because now you go to the rookie quarterback. Does this buy John Fox a little bit more time, or is he still going to be at the hot seat regardless of how this season ends?
Well, I believe they're 4-16 the last 20 games. So over the last year and a half, last year was a big step backward for them as they were 3-13. There really was not the improvement they were looking for in the second year of the staff. I think the eye test is more important really than the record. Again, if you're 3-13, there's going to be a coaching change. If they're a 6-10 team or they're a 7-9 team and Mitch gives them a spark, and it looks like Dowell Loggins is helping develop Mitchell Trubisky, I think you'll see this coaching staff back again next year. But Mitchell Trubisky isn't their best player, obviously. He's never taken a regular season snap, but he's their most important player. And his development is the most important thing about this organization going forward. So if they see that he's being developed appropriately over the next 12 games, then I do believe the coaching staff will be back.
My last thought, Tom Waddle is with us from Chicago on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, where Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Is this a move that's being made out of desperation because they look so bad on national TV on a Thursday night and because the coach knows that he's coaching for his job? Or is this a move that is being made because the kid has shown himself to be ready, that something has happened in these last 4 weeks that said he wasn't ready on September 1st, but he is ready on October 1st?
The answer is yes to all of it. I think that think they're impressed with what they've seen from Mitchell. I don't think they thought initially he was going to be as far along as he is. He played exceptionally well in the preseason. I think that you talk to people around the organization, they're very happy with how he's progressed, even in practice. I think he's more ready now than he was before. I don't know that a rookie quarterback's ever ready. There will be mistakes, but I think they're more comfortable now turning things over to him than they would have been at the start of the season, and it's a necessity now as well because Mike Glennon just hasn't taken care of the football. And listen, we're all human beings, and John Fox has got a nice resume as a head coach in this league. I believe this is his 16th year as a head coach in the league. He's taken 2 teams to Super Bowls, but you are what your record says you are, and they're 4-16 their last 20 games. So John knows he needs to give this organization a spark and win some games.
And finally, Tom, your thoughts on the 2-game suspension of Danny Trevathan. I thought 2 games was a bit much. Finally, quite frankly, to me, 1 game would have been a bit much. A personal foul call, yes. But to me, they're going overboard with the suspension. Your thoughts?
I thought it happened about the way I thought it would. Danny's not a a dirty player. I don't believe it's difficult to determine intent. I don't believe the intent was to hurt. Danny never left his feet. It was unfortunate because Davante Adams' head was coming down as Danny came in to finish the tackle. My guess was because of the nature of the hit and why it happened on national television, they would probably give him a 2-game suspension. I would be very surprised if they didn't. They have appealed it if they don't bring it down to just 1 game. I think because of the initiative to get the helmet-to-helmet contact out of the game, I understand why they did it. Again, I'm more of an intent guy, and I don't believe Danny Trevathan's intent ever on the field is to maim somebody. So I think it'll be appealed down to 1 game, and they'll move forward.
All right, Tom Waddle's got Rob Manfred on the show this afternoon, ESPN 1000. If you're in Chicago, make sure you're listening. Thanks, Tommy. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
It's Tommy Waddle with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Let's expand on that briefly. Your thoughts on that hit, because what I think a lot of people see is what looks like an unnecessary play. The runner looks stopped. He comes in. He's about the 3rd or 4th guy hitting him, puts his head straight down. I mean, if there's one conversation we've had more than any other over the last 2 years, I can hear Mike Golick saying it in my sleep at this point. Make sure you see what you hit. Trevathan is looking straight down at the ground and hits him with the crown of his helmet directly in the face mask. If that's not a dirty play and it's not actionable, then what is?
Greeny, it's not dirty. It's a football play that when 2 people are moving at high speed like that, things are going to happen from the standpoint. To me, Danny Trevathan is trying to come in. He's trying to lower his shoulder because he realizes he can't hit with his head. He's trying to lower his shoulder and move his head out of the way. And the receiver, who's being turned by 3 or 4 defenders, his head gets lowered. Now you have helmet-to-helmet contact. To me, the NFL isn't trying to legislate head-to-head contact out of football. What they're trying to do is legislate the optics out of it. Because if you're really trying to do it, offensive and defensive linemen have head-to-head contact every single play. But nobody really watches that. We're only watching the football. We're only watching when the receiver catches it and there's a huge hit. That's what we're watching. We're only watching when the quarterback gets hit on the sideline and there's a huge hit. So they're trying to legislate the optics or the perception that football is safer. There is no head-to-head or helmet-to-helmet contact. There's helmet-to-helmet contact with offensive and defensive linemen, with fullbacks and linebackers every single play. So I think it's a little hypocritical of the NFL to do that, especially to suspend the guy. If you want to throw a flag for unnecessary roughness, fine. Be my guest, do that. But do not suspend the guy for something that's been done for a long time. And just because it's been done for a long time doesn't make it right. But you have to understand the angles of football and how it looks and not just react to the optics and how people react and how social media is going crazy. And if this is not a hit, what is? It's football. You're going to have – it's the reason they wear helmets, put it like that. You're going to have that.
I understand what you're saying. And I understand that what you're telling me is that he didn't mean to do it. Tom Waddle just said intent. But we can't legislate intent. Things happen on a football field so fast and so many. I can't sit here and tell you what he was or wasn't trying to do. I can tell you what happened. I can tell you that he put the crown of his helmet directly into the face mask of Davante Adams. That's what happened. Whatever his intent was, I don't know. But that's what wound up happening. And the only reasonable way I think you can officiate this stuff is to – at the end of the day, when I accept that intent is impossible to determine at all times, then I get why they would say, you know what, at the end of the day, I just have to legislate based upon what happened. He hit him with the crown of his helmet.
Make it fair then. Make it fair. Make it fair when a running back is running the ball and he lowers the crown of his helmet as a corner or a linebacker.
Right.
Make it fair. Don't make it so one-sided, because right now it's one-sided when the guy who's not looking is hit by a defender who's coming in with the crown of his helmet. Everybody goes crazy. But when the running back has the football and he's coming around the corner and there's a linebacker or a safety coming and the first thing he does is lower his head, what's that? He's using the crown of his helmet as a weapon. It's not fair from a defensive standpoint that the defenders are getting penalized for football plays just because of the optics and because of the perception that people see, when everybody else, from fullbacks, running backs, they do it all the time. Watch the number of fullbacks and running backs that lower their helmet when coming and being opposed by a defender. It happens all the time. But because of the perception that the National Football League wants to put off, hey, this game is so much safer. Listen, man, football is a collision sport. There's only so much safety you can have in it. And I think from an optical standpoint and a perception standpoint, we want this game perceived to be safer and better, and it's never going to be that.
I hear what you're saying. the other thing I hear is this is now suddenly turned into I play defense, and I'm upset with all these rules that are penalizing the defense guys instead of the offense guys.
I can see how it comes across
when the running
like
back
that.
puts his helmet down, the defensive guy has plenty of opportunity to see it and to react to it. He's not defenseless in any way. He's actually playing defense. The offense guy, you can't be defenseless when you're playing defense. Those two things don't work together. You can be defenseless when you're on offense.
But it doesn't change the fact
Adams has no control in that moment when three guys are holding on to him over where his helmet is going to wind up. He's falling down because three people are tackling him.
Understood. But if you're a defender and you're coming, and at the last minute the running back lowers his head, I mean, essentially you're in the same position.
But that wouldn't be a penalty. The defensive player isn't going to get a penalty for hitting that guy in the head.
And neither is the offensive guy. That's my point. The offensive guy is doing exactly the same thing that the defensive guy does when it comes to lowering his helmet and using the helmet, the crown of the helmet, as a weapon. I would love to know what's the difference right there.
I understand well, I think there's a difference. I understand what you're saying, but so the offensive line and the defensive line, you guys play defensive line all your career,
yes.
Right? Are your helmets actually colliding on every snap of every play? Not really, right? You're lined up on someone's shoulder.
A lot, Greeny. A lot. I mean, a lot.
But
I wouldn't say every play, but it's a lot.
But you're only coming from, a foot away from each other as opposed to someone is running and coming at a large. See, that's what I don't know. That's why so much of this stuff has to be studied and understood. And I think that there is a natural contradiction in what you necessarily want to know.
Right.
If you have to take that out, okay, if that is going to cause a lot of problems later in life, those just then football doesn't work.
Right.
You just can't play football anymore.
Correct.
Right? You can take what Danny Trevathan did out of the game. You can't take you against who's a guy you would have played against a million times. No one is jumping to mind. Larry Allen. Oh, my goodness.
That's a bad example.
That had to be brutal. Larry Allen, who could have bench pressed you, but you're playing against Larry Allen. You guys, if your helmet is hitting each other 60 times in a game, that can't be taken out.
Correct.
So if that is going to cause problems, if you can't have that, then you can't have football anymore, right?
I agree with that. The only point I'm making is you have to make some fairness of this helmet-to-helmet contact, especially when you have running backs who are power backs, Marshawn Lynch, Eddie Lacy, big back Zeke Elliott. When they come around that corner, Greeny, they're not looking and saying, hey, let me turn my shoulder, hit this. They're taking the crown of their helmet, and they're looking at that DB and say, yeah, little fella, come here. And they're plowing into him. At some point, where's the fairness of that?
So should that be a foul? Should they take that out of football?
They should take the fact that a running back can use the crown of his helmet as a weapon. If the helmet is the issue, understand this. I hear what you're saying about defenseless player.
Yeah.
Let's just take a look at the helmet as a weapon and spearing and all that good stuff, because the head is the central part of this.
Right.
If you can use the helmet as an offender, as an offensive guy, from a defensive standpoint, it just seems a little unfair, man, that you're letting the offensive guy just kind of spear you and knock you out.
Okay.
Ask any corner out there. They would feel the same way.
I'm willing to listen to that conversation. Part of me is only hearing, I played defense all these years, and this isn't
that's
fair
because
to the
that's what you want to hear. That's all you want to hear.
But there's another part of me that says I'm at least willing to hear you out.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
Ooh, all right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Timmy Kurkjian joins us live from the Bronx to preview tonight's wild card game between the Yankees and the Twins. Good morning, Tim Kurkjian.
How are you, Greeny? Hi, Booger.
Hello, Tim.
Always a pleasure. And let's start with this. Booger has this crazy idea that he stole from your buddy David Ross there, where I like the wild card game, the second wild card that they added for what it does to the regular season. I love the increased emphasis on winning the division. However, there's something that just feels so difficult about a one-game series after a 162-game season. And so Booger, who will steal an idea with the best of them, stole one from Rossi where he said, make the team that has the lesser record have to win twice. Thus, if the Yankees were to win tonight, it's over. If the Twins were to win tonight, they'd have to win a second game. At first, I hated it. Starting to grow on me. What do you think of it?
I don't think too much of that. Sorry, Booger. Here's the problem with the wild card game. If you go more than one game here, then you're taking a team that won a division, let's say, and now they have to wait even longer before they play their first game. And the key here is this is baseball. It's a daily game. And when you play the game every day during the regular season, basically, and then you get almost a week off in some cases before the playoffs start, that's not good for a baseball team to do that. So the best way to do the wild card game is to play one game and then start the division series right after that, because Mike Scioscia told me a few years ago, he said, we've had more off days in the postseason than we had during the regular season. And even though that was only a slight exaggeration, the point is well made.
Tim, one of the knocks on Joe Girardi is that he gets a little tight in these playoff situations. He's got a young pitcher in Severino who's got some electric stuff. How long is he going to let Severino go tonight? And do you think Joe Girardi gets tight in these pressure-packed playoff situations?
Well, first off, Joe Girardi is a great manager, not a good manager, and the way he's gotten this team into the playoffs and kept them relevant over the last few years is truly amazing. And yes, he's had a quick hook with some of his pitchers recently, but I would say anyone would have a quick hook when you got those guys coming out of the bullpen. He's got 6, 7, 8 different guys that can come out of that bullpen and strike out the side. That's how good that bullpen is. However, Luis Severino is really good. And after Corey Kluber and Chris Sale, he's been the best starting pitcher in the American League this year. And if he is dealing, as he could be tonight, Joe Girardi is not going to get him. But at the first sign of trouble, he might, because he's got horses, start with Chad Green, lined up that he can bring in, and nobody has a stable of hard throwers quite like Girardi does in that bullpen.
How early, Tim, how early in a tie game does he get tempted to do that? If it's the 5th inning tonight in a scoreless game and it's 2nd and 3rd, is he tempted to do that?
Well, it's possible, but let's also consider that Severino, for the most part, has gotten better as the game goes along. He has thrown more pitches from the 7th inning on at 100 miles an hour or greater than all the other starting pitchers in the major leagues combined this year. So he's not one of those guys who really good the first time through, struggles the second time, really struggles the third. That's not his MO. He's still throwing really hard late in the game. So I don't see them going to the bullpen unless they see significant issues from Severino in, say, the 5th inning. And I don't think that's going to happen. This kid is really good.
And Tim, put into context what the Twins have done this season. They were going to be buyers. They turned to sellers. You got this young, explosive outfield. The offense has picked up late. Just put into context what the Twins have done to get to this point.
Well, Booger, what they've done is basically unprecedented. As you know, no team has ever gone from 100 losses to the playoffs. They went from 103 losses to the playoffs. And don't forget, in the beginning of August, they were 4 games under 500. They've been outscored for the season, and then they made this remarkable run here. They're the highest scoring team in Major League Baseball since August the 5th. They've hit more homers than any team in baseball starting August the 8th. And they've done all of this with a great defense, and that was how this all turned around. Paul Molitor, the manager, the most fundamentally sound player that I think I ever ran across, basically told his team in spring training, we were terrible defensively last year. That is 2016, and that ends now. And they made a great emphasis on defense every day of this season. Their defense got demonstrably better, and their outfield defense is phenomenal. They have 3 center fielders playing outfield on an everyday basis for them, and Byron Buxton, their everyday center fielder, my goodness, watching him go left to right, streaking through the outfield, that is truly breathtaking to watch.
All right, Timmy Kurkjian is there again in the Bronx tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time for the Yankees and the Twins, the American League Wild Card. You'll see it on ESPN. You'll hear it right here on ESPN Radio. Thank you, Timmy. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you.
Tim Kurkjian with us here getting set for the game tonight. Looking forward to that. Yeah, the Twins a surprise. Obviously, they lost 103 games a year ago. They were under 500, as you heard Tim say at the beginning of August. The Yankees are a team that at the trade deadline, they added a bunch of pieces. They made a real run at Boston. They didn't get there. It'll all wind up having been very worth it if they win tonight and get themselves into the actual field, and it will not have been worth it if they don't win tonight. It's as simple as that.
Well, the Twins are a huge underdog, Greeny. If you look at where their season is and where it started, like at a certain point, they said, you know what, we're going to be buyers. We're going to make some moves. We're going to get some guys in here. Then all of a sudden, overnight, they say, you know what, we're going to be sellers. And so they started getting rid of parts, getting rid of pieces. And this team galvanized and got together and said, you know what, nobody gives us a chance to win. Nobody thinks we can do this. And it's amazing when they turn their attention to defense. He talked about those 3 center fielders playing outfield. Their defense has been outstanding. The home run has been their big key. The key tonight, though, will be Irvin Santana. Irvin Santana has pitched terrible in the new Yankee Stadium. What does he pitch like? He's been very good this year, just bad in that stadium. How he pitches tonight will go a long way to determining how long they can stay into this game.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I love Girardi. I think he is a great everyday manager. Yep. I do agree that he sometimes gets tight in games like this, and I think that sometimes the team takes that personality on as well. We've seen it historically. It just is what it is. And so if he does try to make a quick move tonight, I think that will be interesting. I gave a bad example because scoreless is one thing. If the game's 2-2, second and third, and 1 out in the 5th inning, is he tempted to make a move?
Yeah, because he's got horses in the bullpen. Now, if it's early, a better example would be, let's say it's in the 3rd or 4th inning, because now you're in that gray area.
Right.
If he gets to the 5th inning, he can take it from the 5th. The 3rd or 4th inning is a better example.
Well, he's talking about Severino throwing all these 100-mile-an-hour pitches in the 7th inning. I think it's an upset if he sees the 7th inning tonight. Let me get a couple of quick takes from you on the National Football League here. Just a couple of real fast ones as we run through all the big news of the day. David Carr out 2 to 6 weeks. If it's 2 weeks, obviously they can withstand that. If Carr misses more than a month, do the Raiders miss the playoffs as a result?
Well, Derek Carr, in my opinion, is one of the best young quarterbacks in football. If he misses that much time, they're going to struggle. I think, though, it gives them an opportunity to get back to who they were, which is a physical football team. If you want to talk about an offensive line, then use the offensive line. This offensive line has gotten too pass-heavy, which is why they got pushed around in Washington. Offensive linemen by nature, Greeny, want to go north-south. They don't want to back up. So do I think they can survive and stay above water? Yes, if they run the football. E.J. Manuel is a quarterback. You talk about that line, he's below that line, Greeny. He's way below that line. So they're going to have to lean on the running game to be a viable team while Derek Carr is hurt.
6 weeks, do you think they can stay in the playoff race? Manuel can win them half their games in 6 weeks?
The running game, the defense can do that. Manuel can't. Manuel is not that type. He's not that guy.
Next quick take, Dalvin Cook out for the season. Obviously, he was not the Vikings' only running back, but he had really given them a spark, and they're playing so much time now without the quarterback, and who knows what's going on with that. Are the Vikings falling out of it?
I think that's going to eventually hurt him because not only is Dalvin Cook hurt, Sam Bradford isn't playing right now. And as much as you talk about quarterbacks that are above or below the line, Sam Bradford is above the line. He has a huge arm. He has a high completion percentage. He can get the football to the weapons. Diggs, Rudolph, those guys can make plays. Nothing against Case Keenum, but he's a guy who I'm not going to say can win you games consecutive week after week after week. You need some balance, the running game, and Dalvin Cook was so explosive. My goodness. I mean, to me, he was right up there with Kareem Hunt, Watson. He was going to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I think this eventually puts Minnesota in a position that they can't recover from.
And in a word, are the Bears making the right or wrong decision by going to Trubisky right now?
Wrong.
Because?
Well, you asked me for one word.
I understand that. I shouldn't have. You know what? I put you in a box there, and that was my fault.
I can listen.
I apologize.
You said one word.
Listen, and you listened to me, which is a delightful change here. But that said, I'd like a tiny bit more from you on that.
Okay, it's the wrong move because I don't think he's ready. And I think you're putting him in there, to your question that you asked Tom Waddle, I think you're putting him in there because of what's going on in Houston and because of public sentiment. I don't think he's done anything in practice the last 4 weeks that he hasn't done in training camp. So why are you putting him in now? I understand if you're saying, hey, our plan was to put him in week 8. Well, keep the plan. Let Mike Glennon play. You're not going into the playoffs anyway. Make sure that you're sure that this young kid is ready to go because you're never going to get a second chance for this first opportunity that he gets to make an impact on your football team.
That is the most right thing you've said all day. And a day filled with right things, I totally agree. If he's not really ready and they're going to this move for other reasons like desperation, in my opinion, it's a huge mistake. We'll take a short break. We come back with one school that has to make one huge and fascinating decision. You'll hear what it is right after this. Mike and Mike. Again, some of the Twitter on Booger's idea of changing around the baseball playoffs. Other ideas, like Nicholas tweets at us, all this safety concern in the NFL, but they still let a pile push a runner an extra 5 yards. Hashtag forward momentum, hashtag blow the whistle. Agree or disagree with that concept?
Well, I think I agree with that because it's up to the referee to blow the whistle for forward progress. And normally what happens is you get the offensive lineman running in, especially near the goal line or the first down mark. You're trying to push your guy over.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that because the defensive guys do it also. They try to push the guys back. So I'm okay because both sides are doing it. I like fairness.
Well, but the point that when a guy like Trevathan comes in with a big hit like that after the play is quote-unquote over, it leads to a 2-game suspension. I get it. Offensive linemen aren't coming in there and smashing someone in the face with their helmet.
We had a rule in Tampa, and you'll love this based on our wiggle conversation.
Yeah. If
it's wiggling, hit it. That was our rule. Rod Marinelli, Monty Kiffin had a rule. If it's wiggling, hit it. If the ball carrier if something is moving, whatever's moving, you hit it. That's why our defense was physical. It was nasty and if you look around the league and you talk to people feared our defense, not because we were big. Like I was the biggest guy at 300 pounds. Okay. We were small, we were fast, and we would hit you. Prime example, Derek Brooks in the first play of I want to say it was the NFC Championship game in 1999. Torrey Holt runs a slant, he breaks his ribs. Okay, first play of the game, he's spitting up blood.
Brooks broke Holt's ribs.
If it's wiggling, we'll hit it. And so going back to the needing wiggle room and this NFL thing, if it's moving greeny and you're a defender, we're taught to hit it, big fella. And so when you see Danny Trevathan hitting that, because what's to say that he's not going to break that tackle? So I think the NFL has to keep things in perspective, and hopefully that the guys on 345 Park Avenue who play football can tell the people, listen, this is how the game is played. Like, that's the only thing we want. Football is not played in a series of papers where you say, hey, here's the rule. It has to be looked at on film, looked at on tape to understand the situations. You can't play it in a vacuum on a piece of paper in a booklet. You just can't do it.
Now, if only your best friend was the one who was actually going to make the decision on the Trevathan suspension, but that's exactly what's happening. Derek Brooks, who once made Torrey Holt spit up blood, is the hearing officer for today's appeal from Trevathan on his 2-game suspension, according to our Adam Schefter.
Yes.
You know Brooks better than anybody. You guys play golf together all the time. He takes your money day after day, week after week on the many beautiful golf courses in the Tampa, Florida area. And you're telling me you believe he will reduce the suspension from 2 games to 1.
Here's what I know. Derek Brooks is fair. Okay, he's not lenient. He's fair. He's played 13 or 14 years in this league. He's a Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion. He understands the game. I think the first thing he'll look at is to see if there's a history. Does Danny Trevathan have a history of dirty play, a history of illegal hits, a history of personal fouls? If he doesn't, then he'll talk to Danny and be like, okay, tell me what you saw. Explain it to me. Because how this works in a hearing is the lawyer or the representative of Danny can call in. Danny can call if he wants to. And you're on the phone with Brooks. And you guys can essentially watch the play together with all this technology. And he wants to know what you were thinking. Tell me what you saw. And it's at 2 games right now. And if Brooks believes or has an idea of what they're saying is true based on the facts, then there's a chance he could reduce it. Now, in my opinion, haven't talked to him, don't know, just found out this morning that he was the hearing officer. I think he'll reduce it to 1 game. I don't think he'll rescind it all the way, but I do think based on what I know, fairness, intent and all that, this will wind up being a 1-game suspension.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And this might sound like I'm being facetious, but I'm really not. You're saying he's going to want to ask Trevathan what he was thinking. Does he have time to think? Like in that situation, Trevathan is running as fast as he can to this play because he doesn't know that by the time he gets there, the running back is going to be moving, or the receiver in this case is going to be moving backwards. Do you have, as I feel like you guys practice as much as you do so that when you're actually on the field, you're just instinctually reacting and you're not really thinking. Mm-hmm. Does he have time to think? Like, if you say, what were you thinking about, can he answer that question?
Yeah, because here's what he'll say. He was like, I saw the ball carrier not down as I'm flying to the pile, and I'm trying to get a piece of it. So that's what he was thinking. He's trying to get a piece. Once again, if it's wiggling, hit it. And that's what he's thinking. And so I think when he asked him that question, he just wants to know what his intent was. Are you going in there? Is there a past history between you and this guy? Are you trying to harm him for one reason or the other? Or are you just trying to go in there and light him up and make him remember the name Danny Trevathan? All these are things that Brooks is going to want to know.
And I will say this. Next year, when I have a fantasy football team, that's going to be the name. If it's wiggling, hit it. A man who lived his life by that motto is Ryan Clark. He's on his way in studio as well. Stay there, Mike and Mike.